We're very happy today to be chatting with Jutta. So Jutta is an independent coach, consultant, and trainer who has co-created an assessment for Agile teams to evaluate the environmental, social, and economic impact of their products and services. She has published widely, including her most recent co-authored book with John Buck on company-wide agility using beyond budgeting, open space, and sociocracy. A former board member of the Agile Alliance, she also founded the Agile Sustainability Initiative to increase awareness of how the Agile community can drive positive environmental and social impact. She holds an MA in business coaching and change management, diploma in product engineering, and is trained as a pollution control commissioner in ecological environmentalism. She frequently speaks at major conferences across the globe, and so we're really happy to have her here today. So I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for the great welcome. Yeah, today I want to talk about Agile development for digital sustainability. And actually, the punchline is already that this will make the systems more usable, valuable, and feasible. So this is kind of what I want to talk about today. Stephanie mentioned already the books that I have published, and I want to point out exactly the one she was mentioning, the most recent one, which is also dubbed as Bossa Nova. So that's this one. And I want to mention that because what I want to share today is based on that. So as you can see from the title, that book is about how to implement or live inside the whole company an agile way of thinking, working, whatever. When we co-wrote that, John Buck and I, we figured that actually the thing is when we saw the companies who are really are having company-wide agility, that they now face a different problem, which is that people had some expectations, and with that expectations, also their values shifted. And what I mean with that is, if you think of an agile team, and people will find out that this team is not inclusive, everyone would say like, "Oh, but I thought you're agile." However, it doesn't say anywhere to be inclusive, but still this is an expectation, and similarly to a company. And so one of the values that shifts is the one that's focusing on customer. And so the way it shifts, that the customer focus is now understood as the economic, ecological, societal, and social environment as a customer that needs permanent attention. And the way we shorten it now, I know this is kind of clumsy and a long sentence, is to regard actually the planet as a stakeholder. So the planet itself is a kind of a customer, if you will. So, and this is why I'm saying this work right now that I'm sharing today is actually built on that other work. Okay, so here's my agenda. I want to focus first on like some facts. So what, then on insights from those facts, and then now what, which is what you can do actually. And we are starting with the facts, obviously. I guess you have seen quite some definitions of sustainability today. And I want to use one of the definitions, and using this definition also right away and showing where we are as a fact in IT with this sustainability definition. And I'm using here the triple bottom line, also formerly known as People, Planet, Profit. It has now a little bit slightly different name, but you will see it right away. So we are looking at this definition that comes with these three columns. First of all, it is social. So it's looking at people, and it's aiming for equity, health, livability. And this means in our IT world, looking at diversity, security, privacy, and accessibility. And you see this example that I'm showing here, which is Shirley Wu, who tried to register on a system and couldn't because the system said, well, your last name needs at least to be 3 characters long. And so Wu is not a valid name. That's why she couldn't register. And for whatever examples I'm providing, please note that I do not think that people, so the teams creating that software, do that intentionally so that they say, like, we want to exclude all the Shirley Woos in the world. That's not what's happening. It's more what's happening is that we all, and that's very human, we all think that our clients are kind of like us. And if this system, which is probably not an if, this system most likely has not been developed with any Asians in the team, because otherwise that wouldn't have happened. So, which also brings me already to one of the solutions, which is have a variety of perspectives on your team. But we are coming back to this later. Then, so this was the first pillar, the social, the people part. Now, the second one is the environment or the planet. And actually, for the environment, the case is that it aims to protect, of course, the planet. And where we are right now, well, actually, this is old news, and you might know that. In the year 2023, it was that ICT actually overtook already the whole aviation industry. And, sometimes I'm thinking people are saying, well, are you still flying? Shouldn't you better take the train or stay home or whatever? Yet I've never heard people asking, oh, are you still using that laptop or that monitor, or are you going on the video call? Because, well, ICT, which includes hardware and software, has a higher carbon footprint than the whole air traffic industry. So I'm not saying that you should give up on your laptop and leave the session right now. Really not. But what I want to say is that we have an issue here and we should look at it. And so this section here, environmental planet, looks at stuff like green software or otherwise in other ways to reduce the carbon footprint of the software. Then there's this third column, and I brought to you an example actually close by where I live. And first of all, that third column talks about economic prosperity. So this also leads to the new name of the model. So instead of people, planet, profit, it's now called people, planet, prosperity. And first of all, let me tell you what this is about. So this stands for improving the lives and prospects of everyone everywhere. Now, the example that I brought you is the Volkswagen Diesel gate. And I guess that all, or at least some of you, have heard about this. And the thing is that actually it was the software that caused the cars to pretend that they are clean, but in fact they were not. And again, please get me right, I don't think that the software team did this on purpose. I think that, well, that it was more the constraints they were in, that they couldn't find a better solution given the budget they had, and then that this was how it turned out. And of course, this does not improve the lives and prospects of everyone everywhere polluting the air, right? So, one of my points is this is the model that I'm going with, the three bottom line. or triple bottom line or three pillar model or people, planet, prosperity. And you see that software is really having a responsibility for all of these areas. What you also might see here is that sustainability is really also a holistic view of all of these three. Okay, so here we go. Next thing is what I want to talk about is actually the insights. And the insights I want to get from you. And I have prepared a survey, and Stephanie was actually mentioning that before, which invites you to say, where are you with your team? And I also want to share the link here in the chat. I hope that this worked. And you also see, of course, the QR code. And I really invite you to just answer this as good as you can from a team you have in mind, a company you have in mind. It could be yours, it could be a client you work with, or whatever. And answer, where are you? And we will jointly look at the report then. So, what it is, where we stand, and what does this mean for our business? So, I am hoping that many of you are answering the survey. And maybe I also, while you're answering, I can tell you that this is only an excerpt of the full survey. The full survey has more statements, so I cut it down to shorten it so that we are not spending so much time here. However, it has been published under Creative Commons, so this means you can just go ahead and use it with your team and understand where you stand and what could be your next thing you want to do. So I'm watching here. Well, if data points are coming in so far, we are really slow, it seems, but I can also imagine that it takes some time to think about these statements and what they mean for you. Okay, now I see at least the first data points came in, so this is good. Which maybe means that a few more are coming in now quickly. And I can imagine that for some of the statements, you just wonder, well, I don't even know. I don't have a clue what's going on here. So that could be happening as well. And just to give you a report, I see that we now have 4 data points, and I think we should have a few more in order to make sense of the results. That's why we keep waiting at least a little bit longer here. And for, well, you see the QR code, but you could also use the bit.ly link that I put in the chat. So it would be possible as well. And I do hope more people are answering. because I only see we have 4 data points, and that's not a lot for really looking at it. And I give you a few more minutes, seconds, whatever. I see the next ones are coming in, so this is good. And let's see if more are coming in. So we have 5 data points right now. Okay, now we are making a little bit progress here. That's good. 6. And maybe I wait for 1 or 2 more, and then we take a look at the result. Let's see, maybe we are starting while you hopefully keep answering. So let's take a look at that. So, and it keeps updating as your data is coming in. So I still hope for more data. So you see that it's refreshed while you're answering. And the tendency is clear at the moment that social is the highest. It says 3.935 would be the max. So this is already something that's quite high here. And we can drill down there on the social part. And then take a look what it all means. So there are also the statements that have various amount of a rating that you provided. So what we see is that the one that has been rated the highest is actually here the product service is designed to be accessible for work and work for people of all abilities. I really like that. And I do believe this is because, well, the EU Accessibility Act might be one thing that it is, at least in Europe now, a rule that you have to make your software accessible. On the other hand, also that we have been discussing this topic for quite some time now. Then I don't want to go over all of these. Then if you look at the lowest here in the social dimension, I see that users have the option to choose what data they share with us. And I believe this is something that we not often think about. And that's why, this is not on our radar, if you will. Now, going back to the overview and looking at what's lowest here, it's holistic is the lowest. Okay, let's dive into this one. So for the holistic one, we also have a few higher ones and lower ones. So let's look for the highest one first. Our product services only used in ways that align with our company's values. Of course, you can also say this is independent of sustainability. It's just what we are doing, and we have whatever values, and sustainability isn't part of it, and so it would still be high. If we look at the lowest one, then this is the thing I was talking about when I started my session, that this is really a shift that I see for company-wide agility, that then the expectation is to prioritize the planet as one of the stakeholders. And this is the lowest here. It has a 3, which is still kind of okay, but still. Maybe let's go back and look at a different view, and to also show you what else you can do here, which is, where am I? I want to look at the heat map, because the thing is, if you're doing this with your team and you have this average value, which is the only value I was looking at right now, then this might be meaningless if you see, for example, let's say whatever. What did we have right now? We had for the holistic. Um, we prioritize the planet as one of the stakeholders. And there are actually some people who have a four. And then there's like one who says false. We have some in between. Sometimes we also have like here would be the um, you would have an average value. I don't know right now what it is. However, you see that most likely it's around three, but nobody really provided the three. So it would help you with the team to find out what is our common understanding and clarify that understanding. This is one of the things that which you can see now with that heat map, and it's anonymous. It would be also anonymous for your team. And the other thing is with the things like what is actually high and what is low, where do you have a higher value, where a lower, you can have an idea what to work at next. And then later on, you can do another survey and find out if this is actually helping or not. So if you did improve with your team or not. So this is what you can do as a project manager, of course. Okay, so this is one of the things that I wanted to share with you as an insight where we are right now, all of us. And now I want to move over already to the next topic, which is what can we do? What is it that is a possibility for us to improve? And then if we maybe run next time that survey, that assessment, we will have a higher score because we worked on something. So I mentioned already that I don't believe that teams on purpose making their systems not sustainable. I think everyone wants to do a good job and wants to provide a system that is sustainable, that's usable, that doesn't have a high carbon footprint, and all of that. And it's improving the lives of everyone everywhere and all of that. Um, and still, sometimes because our teams are not diverse enough, we don't think what kind of problems other people might have just because of the work we are doing. And I want to share with you like one of the things that I find really important, speaking of accessibility. And it really means that we should make our system usable for everyone. And how can you look at it? Well, first of all, I believe if we do so, this is really helpful for everyone, not only the people who are in the need. And what I mean with this is um, providing you, sharing with you this chart that a colleague of mine, David Dame from Microsoft, developed with his team, looking at the different needs of people that they might have permanently, temporarily, or in a specific situation. And if we look at, for example, the hearing part here, then it could be that our clients, our users of the system, there are some deaf, and that's why they cannot work with this voice control system that we are providing. However, it could also be someone has temporarily an ear infection, and that's why that person cannot make use of it. Or another person might be in a very noisy environment, and that's why, so that's a bartender. Well, for me, it's kind of late, so getting ready for a bar. So in a specific situation, you might not be able to use this. So the thing is that if you have all these different people in mind, then it's kind of much easier to follow along and actually, yeah, help everyone to fulfill their needs and make the system really better usable. Okay, looking at the next thing. So in especially the Agile world, what's really very common is to gather the requirements as stories. And the one of the formats that's often taught, and to be honest, I'm not a big fan of it, but on the other hand, I know this is the one that's taught the most, which is as a whatever user, I want to whatever I want, and so I can provide whatever value. And my suggestion for you is to actually enrich that format. And if you use a different one, then also enrich your conversation, your dialogue with like this that you're adding with the impact of, and then whatever impact it has on sustainability. So on the environment, on the social part, on whatever. And so it can look like that. And I know it's not the most clever story, but still, as a designer, I want to reduce the amount of font types so the page performance will increase for users and pages will be more digestible with the impact of reduced carbon emission because of less data transfer. So that's a thing that you can think of to do, just like having from now on, whenever you gather requirements, and you can do it in any way. Yeah, let me say that it's not about the form, it's about the content. In whatever way you're doing it, start having also a conversation what impact that requirement has actually on the on sustainability. Now, looking at a completely different thing, which is maybe a little bit bigger at the beginning. Well, we are also collecting, gathering stories. Well, it's a beginning till the end thing. But at the beginning, you might want to decide on your cloud provider. Now, even here, you can have the possibility to think about what you if sustainability should play a role or not. So there is for Google Clouds here, there's a tool called the region picker, and you can see, well, the typical things are lower price and latency. But now you can also say like, and I also don't want to have a high carbon footprint, and you can go with that as well and then decide where are you going with your system. And yes, so this is an example of Google, and I'm not saying that Google does everything in the absolute right way. However, they provided that region picker, so this is really good. And there are also stuff provided by Amazon and Azure, just to be complete here. Okay, then I want to also share this. We talked about the planet as a stakeholder. You might want to use that as a theme for a retrospective every now and then, and people collect their ideas, like how they think they can really serve that stakeholder in a much better way. So just using the retrospective for that. And I want to share a last one here, what you can do, which is a thing, a value stream analysis, which is a good thing to do anyway in order to understand what is it where we spend our time working and where actually is nothing happening and we are currently waiting and losing or wasting time. And the thing is that, um, well, the example that I have is actually for example, for a change that there is a request that has been submitted, then an approval, then maybe you get the requirements, you have a customer sign off. However, what you can also see, like between the first, like the request and the approval, there are 4 weeks waiting time, or before you start gathering your stories, 1.5 weeks, and before the customer sign off, another 6 weeks. So it's good to have that knowledge. However, this is not what I really want to talk about right now here. What I want to talk about is you can also think about, like, for whatever stuff in your value stream, for example, how do we meet in person or not? And I'm not necessarily saying that online is necessarily better. It depends really very much on a lot of things, like how big is your monitor or whatever. Then for the gather requirements, what is the added value? Because what you don't want to have is feature creep. This only costs, again, emissions and maybe also your nerves. And also, other things you can think about is outsourcing part of what we are doing. And if it is, you can think about, now we're talking more about economic and partly about social sustainability, is what we are doing impact outsourcing. So it means hiring, training marginalized people, or maybe it's ethical outsourcing, that we also say the same social environmental standards that we have should also be true for our supplier. Or maybe you haven't thought about this at all so far. So this is kind of what we think that you actually can do in order to make a difference here, and improve the way you are actually here, um, provide a system that's really sustainable. And maybe we take the time now already for your various questions. So, first of all, before we go there, of course, I want to share with you like how you can reach me. This is all about the connect part here. Then I also want to share, that's that bit.ly agile dash sustainability link where you can find the survey that you can run with your team. Again, it's under Creative Commons. You can just go ahead and use it. That initiative that Stephanie has pointed out. Then I want to invite you to sign the Agile Sustainability Manifesto, and there's a QR code here, and a quick reminder of the book. So I'm ready to answer all your questions. I hope you do have a lot. And actually, I'm going back because you might want to see the connect and build and so on still. And I'm not sure if there are any questions. Oh, there are none. What does this mean? Was
Well,
it?
I'm trying to connect. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, yes, I hear you. I hear you just fine. I don't see any questions so far. And of course, I can also share more stuff, but maybe questions will
I have
come.
I have a question. I'll kick it
Very
off.
good.
If I can get my, sorry, I don't know what's going on. I can't get my camera to work. So this is a kind of, I'm trying to incorporate more agile into my project. So this is kind of one for me. But if software leaves a carbon footprint, how can project managers reduce it, like, in a sprint? Like, because that's, I'm trying to, improve my agile skills. So I'm like,
Yeah,
how's that something we can do?
yeah. So, so first of all, the one suggestion that I had in the presentation about discussing your stories also from the perspective of what impact it has on sustainability. And once you know that, then you also know how to address the carbon footprint. Another thing is that, well, in the same way as I'm saying, have it in every story, I think it's super important that the definition of done includes also looking at the carbon emissions, looking at the whole idea of sustainability, and that this is actually that sustainability is a quality attribute as any other quality attribute, like performance or whatever, load, and so on. So the answer is, the one thing is a specific thing, having it in the stories, which is does also mean it's part of the acceptance criteria of the
Mm,
story. And the second thing is having it in your definition of done.
oh, that's great. right. Oh, we have one.
Uh-huh.
Do you find it difficult to rate the outsourced interpretation of Agile against your organization's interpretation and the impact it will have on your project?
Huh. So I assume that the question aims at a thing that typically, when we are talking outsourcing, most people think it's all about money. And that's the reason why we outsource. Um, to be honest, I think that's the wrong perspective, because typically looking only at money, it is one valid point, but only at money is not really good enough. Because you also maybe want to outsource because you want to open up a new market or being closer to your clients or whatever. So that, and there should be these dimensions as well, because on the other hand, if where you outsource to, if these people are far away from your market, then it's even harder to understand that market, and things might happen as that Shirley Wu example. So also from that point of view. So that's one of the things where I typically start talking, that if we think about outsourcing, it shouldn't be only about money. We have to think about several things. And then the other thing is, well, almost all of you said what we are doing aligns with the company's values. And also, well, for, well, I know it's PMI UK, but still in the EU, we have to ensure that the supply chain is also adhering to the rules, which also means that the companies and teams we are outsourcing to have to adhere to the European rules, which actually have some things about ethics and sustainability. And it could be better, but I think it's a great start. So back to the question, I think it is really a great way of opening the discussion what we really want to achieve with outsourcing, and how can we achieve it, and how can we still adhere to what we are required to do. And yes, I know I'm talking about Europe right now, but hopefully this still helps, because I really think if we do this also impact outsourcing or ethical outsourcing, I think we all benefit from it, because our outsourced team will be better, our system will be better, it will be more sustainable and all of that. And if it's more sustainable, it also costs less money.
All right. So I think, I hope that answered it, Michelle. I don't see any other ones in there. All right. So did anyone else have any questions? No. Okay. Well, thank you so much. This is a great presentation. It was really exciting for me to learn more about how to incorporate things in an agile way. So as I begin my agile journey, so I have lots of takeaways for myself. So thank you so much again for your time, and thank you everyone for joining us. Up next is our closing keynote. So in about 10 minutes time, I hope to see everybody on that stage. Thank you so much again.